don't make up for your sins in the church. You do it in the streets. You do it at home. The rest is bullshit and you know it.
Martin Scorsese is one of the most important artists of the last 100 years. Not only does his cinema explore the human experience, his films expand cinema's ability to express that experience. With great dexterity, Scorsese experiments with colour, works in black and white, elasticates time with slow motion and freeze frame, tests narration styles,
and now it's all over.
uses various aspect ratios, and with Hugo ventured into 3D. And that is not to mention his use of music. Be it classical, avant-garde or rock, it is as eclectic as the genres he covers. Gangster, thriller, musical, biopic, mystery, comedy, satire, drama, crime drama, melodrama, romantic drama, historical epic, religious picture, concert film, documentary, children's picture, short subject, pop video, and commercial. And through all this, Scorsese's films chart a personal search.
It is accomplished!
Scorsese's films are not only profoundly personal to him, but also present for the audience a highly subjective point of view.
It is accomplished.
From Taxi Driver and Raging Bull to The Aviator and Shutter Island, he puts the audience inside the minds of his characters. One way Scorsese achieves this is by fusing slow motion and the point of view shot. This technique shows us not only what his characters see, but how they see it and feel it. In The Age of Innocence, Newland Archer is engaged to Mae Welland, but is really in love with Ellen Olenska. To break his engagement with Mae and take up with Ellen would cause a scandal. Newland is trapped. Through Scorsese's use of slow motion, Newland regards these lawyers as a social tidal wave. Symbolizing New York's establishment, they are threatening to engulf both Newland and his hopes of a happy life with Ellen. Another way Scorsese shows what his characters feel is through the use of the long take. In Raging Bull, he chooses the moment in Jake LaMotta's career when he contests the world middleweight title. Scorsese shows us LaMotta going through the final preparations in his dressing room, heading out along the tunnel beneath the stadium, up the steps to the arena, and finally climbing into the ring. By travelling every step of the way with LaMotta, we share his growing expectation and trepidation for the fight.
Thank you, sir. All right, see you later. Thanks.
What are you doing? You leaving your car?
In Goodfellas, Scorsese takes us into the Copacabana nightclub. Only, with Henry Hill as our guide, we don't have to wait in the queue. Instead, we enter via a side door and wind our way through the back rooms and kitchens before being whisked to a table right in front of the stage. In this way, we experience the scene as Henry's date Karen experiences it. We share the excitement she feels on this, her first visit to the club. The mobility is exhilarating, and just as Henry uses it to seduce Karen, so too are we seduced by the life of a gangster. In this way, Scorsese closely aligns our emotions with that of his characters. However, this long take in Casino is not emotional, but rather conceptual. A member of the Kansas City Mafia enters the counting room in a Las Vegas gambling house. While everyone is focused on their work, he skims hundreds of thousands of dollars from the house's take. It's a pun. This long take is the take. In Hugo, the long take is emotional, conceptual, and personal. By beginning the shot outside a Parisian apartment, before floating through the window pane, Scorsese offers his own special effect as a personal tribute to an early master of film. A party is being held to belatedly honour Georges Méliès, one of cinema's greatest pioneers. Méliès not only created the fiction film, he was the inventor of special effects. He was a cinemagician. Thus, we can regard Scorsese as a cinematic son of the father of fiction film. It is why we see the young Hugo performing magic tricks. Fittingly, Scorsese also references the history of cinema itself. Equipped with encyclopedic knowledge of the medium, he draws from its past to inform his work. Be it Orson Welles, John Ford, or Robert Drew, Roberto Rossellini, Luchino Visconti, Francesco Rossi, or Federico Fellini, Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger, or Alfred Hitchcock, Jean Renoir, or Francois Truffaut, Andrzej Wajda, Kenji Mitsuguchi, or Stanley Kubrick. Scorsese is still, and shall forever be, a student of cinema.
What's different about her?
His musical knowledge is just as deep, and he uses it in ways few other directors do. While Ace introduces us to Ginger in Casino, we hear the song Heart of Stone. It's not just a comment on Ginger's character. The song is by the Rolling Stones, and Ginger is played by Sharon Stone.
Oh no, this heart of stone.
Such layering of sound is crucial because Scorsese shows how you can split the sound from the image.
People looked at me differently, and they knew I was with somebody. I didn't have to wait in line at the bakery on Sunday mornings anymore for fresh bread. The owner knew who I was with, and he'd come from around the counter no matter how many people were waiting. I was taken care of first.
In Goodfellas, we see one thing while we hear something else entirely. While young Henry vandalizes cars, he recalls how he elevated his status amongst his peers. A less articulate director would not have shown us Henry smashing up the cars, but instead we would have seen what Henry tells us.
One day, some of the kids from the neighborhood carried my mother's groceries all the way home. You know why? It was out of respect.
Another trait of Scorsese's films is his unique declension of film grammar. For instance, instead of a simple cut to another angle, he invigorates the syntax by using a whip pan.
We're set up in two.
Get around the monitor. Where's the pediatric card?
It's right here.
Give me the blade.
Similarly, his freeze frames can, paradoxically, create great energy.
But after a while, he was mostly pissed because I hung around the cab stand. He knew what went on at that cab stand. And every once in a while, I'd have to take a beating.
And rather than using jump cuts to disrupt the tempo, he shows how they can deliver a new rhythm to suggest a much sought-after state of grace. Be it spiritual, psychological, or emotional, the search for a state of grace is a strong element in Scorsese's work. And as an artist, it is no coincidence that Scorsese approaches upon that state through his work. Throughout his career, he has had several important collaborators. Producer Barbara DeFina, writer Paul Schrader, actor Robert De Niro, cinematographer Michael Ballhaus, production designer Dante Ferretti, costume designer Sandy Powell, composer Howard Shore, music consultant Robbie Robertson, and sound editor Skip Leavesey. But his most frequent and closest collaborator is film editor Thelma Schoonmaker. Where the long take is about choreographing the emotions in real time, editing is about arranging the emotions in filmic time. Filmic time is emotional time. And here in Shutter Island, the jump cuts underline the torments of Teddy Daniels.
Remember when we stayed in the cabin in the summer, Teddy? We were so happy. She's here. You can't leave.
Tormented characters feature in many Scorsese's films, and their stories chart the search for psychological and emotional balance. That balance is the elusive state of grace.
I'm not gonna leave. I love you so much.
Grace comes from self-knowledge, knowing who you are, and recognizing that leads us to Scorsese's greatest recurring theme, the question of identity.
Who are you? Do you recognize me?
Many of Scorsese's protagonists struggle with or fail to understand their true selves. Travis Bickle, Jake LaMotta, and Ace Rothstein all end up where they started. Rupert Pupkin goes from obscurity to notoriety without securing rationality. Under the Witness Protection Program, Henry Hill has to adopt a new identity. Newland Archer never escapes the customs of old New York. Already suffering from agoraphobia, Howard Hughes' withdrawal from public life reflects his own self-alienation. And most explicitly of all, traumatized war veteran Teddy Daniels spends the entire film searching for himself. Few of Scorsese's protagonists are free of such struggles, and even Jesus Christ and the Dalai Lama have doubts as to who they are. This theme is condensed to a few quick shots in The Departed, where Billy Costigan is pursuing Colin Sullivan. Already pretending to be other people, they are both aware of each other's existence, but neither of them know who the other is. By reflecting Costigan's face and then the fleeing Sullivan in dozens of tiny mirrors, Scorsese visualizes the theme of men in search of themselves. Perhaps that is why so many Scorsese films end in a similar fashion. Through close-ups, he distills the story down to psychological studies. These faces are not just portraits. They are landscapes of the mind, serving as mirrors, reflecting back to us our age-old quest. Ultimately, Scorsese's cinema is about us, for it explores the human experience and maps our search for a state of grace.
I think that's what we all are doing in this life. We all are here in that process of discovery. It's basically the classic search of know thyself, and wherever it takes us, if we can make it. Maybe that's what it's all about.